All right, Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Always good to be with you.
Yeah. Tim and Aubrey, I love being with you guys all the time.
Same. And a lot of times we'll start out these podcasts with like origin, backstory. I think we'll get there. But you open the book, or very nearly open the book, with this really powerful story of time that you spent in India.
Yeah.
And I just think it's such an interesting framing for everything that we're going to talk about. Would you mind just retelling that story for the audience?
Yeah, I'll try to take us back there a little bit here, because it was a day that changed my life. It was a day where I was, and I think your listeners will be able to relate to this, I was seeing something that was so familiar to me with like fresh eyes. And it wasn't just in my mind, it was in my heart and soul. I was feeling this. So one of my favorite cities in the world, maybe my very favorite, is Varanasi, India. I didn't know that till I came here this day. It's right on the river Ganges. It's the most holy of all cities in Hinduism. And they have a very famous, if you'll see the pictures, you'll recognize probably the city in the river. They have a very famous nightly festival. And Sally and I got out of the car and the rickshaw, and we're immediately surrounded in the diversity of life, in like all of its beauty. It was so loud, but I felt like my ears were being attuned to something. Mm-hmm. You know, there were animals all over, rickshaws, cars honking, just chaos in India. So we walk up to the river, and to the left, there's a scene that, as a Westerner and growing up Latter-day Saint, of course, I had never witnessed this before. There were dead bodies on pallets with just a simple white sheet over a body being walked around by, guys with just loincloths on, and literally started a fire. The body was being cremated right for everyone to watch. In India, this isn't such a thing, but in my background, a couple hours later, that body that was just lit on fire was swept. The ashes were swept into the Ganges River. Right in front of me were locals and pilgrims, I'm sure, who had made the trip and were literally baptizing themselves through the ashes of death. So shouts of ecstasy filling the air, and color, and just so much aliveness. And then to the right, another 50 to 100 yards down the river, there's a whole army of people doing the laundry, the most mundane task of the day. So I was feeling something come up in me, and literally Sally and I were riveted. There was a sense of reverence that came upon us. And I was watching something again that felt so familiar to me. And what was clear to me is that, this is such a metaphor for existence. Our breath mimics this, the everyday, the rising and setting of the sun, the seasons. But I think also a larger existential story about life, death, and rebirth. That I felt is the existence of God. It's the existence that we experience here in terms of constant life and activity, constant micro deaths. Obviously, each of us will experience a death of this body. And then there's always rebirth to come. Always rebirth. And so, I start the book on the Ganges River on Varanasi, India, and then I end it at the Virgin River in Zions in southern Utah. So that was the scene that I felt. And again, I'll just say, you've had this experience, I'm sure your listeners have. It just felt so familiar and reverent to me. Yeah. Really sticks out.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I can't remember. I think I may have shared this on the podcast once before, but there's this scene in the New Testament where Jesus's antagonists are coming to him asking for a sign. And he says, the only sign I'm going to give you is the sign of Jonah. And this is something I sort of that started coming up for me as we went through the living school. But the sign of Jonah, obviously, I think there's a superficial reading of that says, okay, Jesus is going to die and he's going to, be in the tomb for 3 days and then he's going to be resurrected. And that's the only sign they'll get. I think there's another reading of that, which says the only sign you're going to have around you in this world, in the cosmos, is going to be this pattern of life, death, and rebirth. Jonah living, going into the whale and then being reborn. Amen. And I think So that's why that story resonated so much with me, because it's just all around us. That's just the way the universe appears to work, is in this cycle.
It is. And we often miss those things that are right in front of our face. I mean, God is trying to teach us constantly. The earth, nature exhibits to us constantly what reality is, but it's so apparent to us. It's so in front of our face, on the nose. We miss it, especially in this hyper age of doing that we're in. But so we just miss what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
You sort of define what you call the old game and this new reframe that you're sort of leaning into, and you call that, this is the new game. And so, and this experience that did also feel really reverent to me. Like I could feel your heart in that story when I read it, and when you have talked about it before, you can feel how powerful that was, and just like it's such a vast experience that you get in one moment, like just a snapshot that is familiar enough that it resonates so deeply, even though I've never been to the Ganges. So I would love for you though to talk about what the old game was, and like, I know it was working for a while, and you write about this moment where it just stops working, and you've had to sort of redefine what you're trying to do with all the space in between this death and rebirth. And so maybe just take us to when the old game broke.
Yeah, I'll do that. Let me say maybe one thing before that. You don't have to go to the Ganges to witness it. I mean, you may have to go to see a body being burned. That doesn't happen in Provo, Utah, or anywhere in the United States that I'm aware of course. But like, it is apparent to it. Like, my third child is leaving for BYU in 2 weeks. This is a little death for Sally and I, meaning just like our kids are moving on. Like, things are not the same. And so we don't have to go to the Ganges to recognize this. But maybe not to jump ahead, but a little bit of my background for those that don't know, that I've built fast growing startups for like 20 years, and I've grown large companies. I've invested in some of the fastest growing companies here in Utah. It was a game of like constant doing, but I just realized this isn't working for me. This constant struggle to do, I wasn't bringing enough being to what I was doing because I had overloaded my plate just far, far too much. So to me, the old game is one that we've been playing for a long time. It's the one that you and I and our parents even inherited. It's in the air we breathe. And it's, if I do more, I can be more.
Yeah.
Period.
It's an unquestioned assumption.
It's the unquestioned assumption in capitalism, in the Western US, you could even say in our religion of choice. Like, that is just kind of the unquestioned, that's just how it is. But like you said, Aubrey, I got to a point, and I tell in the book about how I climbed my little mountain of success. And when I got to the mountain, to the top of the mountain, I realized there was nothing but a cold, howling wind. Just void. I say in the book, there's just void. There's nothing different on top of the mountain that we think we're climbing, than what we're already in. So what do you do when you get to the top and like not all your problems are solved? Yep. Not everything's okay. You don't have all the answers. You still have a lot of internal work to do. There's nothing to do but to go back down the mountain, picking up the pieces of a little bit of a tattered life. Not that anything I did in business or whatever was wrong. It was just the pace, pace and the lack of presence that I brought to a lot of it, which was a struggle. So you pick up those pieces, and Aubrey, there's only one place left to go, and that is inside. You stop looking externally. We look so external for our validation, for our whatever. And I certainly feel some of this in releasing this book. Like, how are people going to experience it? But that doesn't really matter. And I can sit here in peace and comfort saying it doesn't matter. And at a later part in the book, I know this is cliche, but I often say to my students that I've been an adjunct professor of entrepreneurship at BYU to thousands of students. And I often say to them, the most powerful ideas are often the most simple and therefore the most neglected. I think that Jesus was a perfect example of this. And what I'm about to say is this to its T. We are not looking for anything outside of us. we're looking for something that is already inside of us. It is inherent to our divine nature. We cover it up, we mask it, we block it, we drug it, whatever we do to like numb it. But it's that real looking inside and finding the pearl of great price, let's say, that's in the heart, I think, the beating heart of every human being on the earth. That's where we find what it's worth. And that's the new game. And I think AI is going to like force us there, because when AI is better at doing so much of what we're used to do, right, what are we left with? We're left with being. And so again, and as is often the case, and I think a blessing, the obstacle, in my opinion, becomes the way here. AI becomes the way through for humanity to transform and evolve in magnificent ways, which is what I kind of lay out in the book.
Yeah. Let's, okay, I really want to get more into AI. I think that's there's so much there. But I want to go back really quick to your mountain metaphor, which really resonates for me. In part because, well, I sort of imagine it like there's this mountain that we focus on largely, in the West especially, of capitalism and money, success, recognition, etc. And so many of us spend so much, especially like early and midlife, we spend so much time on that mountain. But what I think has become true for me is that it doesn't seem like sinful necessarily to be on that mountain. Right? Like, I think the problem that I find is that I think what's true about what you're saying is that you can climb all the way up that mountain and find that there's nothing up there. Void, I think, is a good word. And yet, I still find myself doing it, even though I accept, very logically that you're right. Like I'm climbing up this mountain. It's difficult. It's stressful. It feels important. At the end of the day, it's probably not. And I know that I'm going to have to like start my descent just, to start climbing up the other mountain, which does have a lot of, real depth to it that has the things that really matter. So I guess the question for me is like, is the call of this book to say like, get off that mountain? Or is it a little bit more, the sun shines on the just and the unjust? Not even to say that that's unjust, but just like, be aware that that's a mountain.
Yeah, like I think as long as we are embodied here on earth, and maybe for eternity, let's say, there's going to be plenty of doing to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's like that friction that like we need that to like progress. Unfortunately, humanity seems to move when there's enough pain. And I think AI is going to push us into this pain, by the way, which is why we're going to be transforming. But so I think that ascent, you could say, is always part of the whatever. The joy, though, is in the journey. It's not in the outcome or the destination. And so because the joy is in the journey, number one, and number two, because we are journeying with fellow travelers all around us that are struggling in their own ways, that are different than us, but beautiful nonetheless. It's the ability to bring awareness and presence to that doing. I don't want to like turn the tables on you, Tim, but I kind of want to and say like, I get I know a little bit about your background and your mountain peaks and down, but do you find, at least I hope, and I hope I'm doing this with the launch of the book. I've been extraordinarily busy launching this book. I'm doing a lot, but I'm doing it with a lot more presence and awareness, because when I do that, number one, I'm in my divine center or place, and I'm bringing that to everyone that I interact with. Yeah. Rather than like, okay, Tim, you can't keep up. Okay, see you later. Keep up. I'll catch you on the downside. Like kind of block. Get things done. Check mark. Cross it off. Win this award. Like you're just doing it all with a lot more like presence and awareness. So that would be the simple answer that I give to you. I don't think it's about. I don't think we're all going to become monks. Like we each have 4 kids. I'm a grandpa. Like the doing isn't going to stop, but the way that we approach the doing can be in a much more, I would say, holy or godly way. Yeah. And that's the magic. And by the way, it's so easy to sit in this beautiful set and to be with 2 friends. I love you guys. And to talk about this. The rubber meets the road when I get back out and you guys get back outside and we enter into the world of madness? And can we hold on to that presence and awareness? And can we bring it to both, one, every experience we have, and two, maybe even most importantly, and this is critical in the age of AI, every human relationship we have. I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I just think so many people are probably thinking what I'm thinking when they hear that, which is, well, you know, my life is a particularly difficult place to focus on being. And honestly, for the first, you know, couple minutes as you were talking there, I'm like, well, you know, startups don't lend themselves very well to presence. You know, it's all about the next growth is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, it's very difficult to have a board meeting coming up next week and be like, you know what I'm going to bring to work, my work today is presence. You know what I mean? And
you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I don't think that's unique to me actually.
No.
Everyone is probably thinking in their particular sphere, that's the truth. So I guess my follow-up question is, acknowledging as you did the difficulty of bringing the presence and the being to these, you know, chaotic, stressful, busy lives that we have. Like what are the practical steps? Somebody's hearing this, it's resonating. Oh, I do need to bring more presence to my day-to-day life without changing the doing that I'm doing necessarily. Like what can I do right now today?
I'll say two things. The most powerful tool for me in this quest has been meditation. I became a serious meditator. I dabbled with it a little bit, maybe starting a decade ago, but then it became a necessity after I faced the most public defeat in my life. I ran for governor in the state of Utah in 2020. The most critical months of that race were March, April, May, and June of 2020. Like when I was deciding to run, you know, pros and cons, I didn't really have a board like that, but global pandemic was not on my con list. Like I didn't consider it. So I didn't know that was a thing, you know? And so here I am losing in a very unfair way in the sense that it wasn't able to finish like in a normal election cycle. I wasn't able to finish. I mean, I had to, this still breaks my heart. I had to say bye and thank you to my team of like 100 people, workers and volunteers via Zoom. Because it was like the heart of the pandemic. Like we weren't socially gathering. And so I go into the summer of 2020. And for the first time in my life, my adult life, and you guys can probably relate to this, and you may have not gotten there yet, maybe you have, I had space and time. One of the things about our faith that can be a double-edged sword, in my opinion, is this hyper productivity that leads to hyper action very quickly. Yeah. And there is not space or time. So I never had it. I was a young bishop, a young father, young married, young, all the things. And, but I had it in the summer of 2020, like a lot of us maybe had more than we were used to. And I became a religious meditator. And that has forced me to go inside myself. Eventually you have to go inside and examine, like Jesus said, the kingdom of God is inside of you. What does that mean? What is inside of me? I know the ugliness. I know the frailties. I know what's the beauty inside of me? Accept that and then try to bring that to the world via a book or a podcast or a movement or a business, you know, whatever it may be. And the other thing I would just plug real quick. And I talk about 3 universal teachers in the book, family, your body, and nature. When you can combine those things, doing flow activities in nature, moving your body, absolute game changer. Like whether that's you like running, hiking, wake surfing, mountain biking, whatever it is, when you can get grounded to the earth and in your body and in this like flow state where your mind quiets down a little bit, like finding what that is for you. Like if I could challenge your listeners, I would say, find the flow activity related to the earth in your body that just is money for you. Like you just feel it. That's go there. Go there every day or as often as you can.
I love that.
Yeah, I love those, what you call them, the 3 universal teachers, right? Yeah. I that's really what stayed with me after reading your book. But I'm still thinking about when you said that the way, or the obstacle is the way. I think that is a lesson that I keep learning over and over. And I'm thinking about Eckhart Tolle's work in The Power of Now and New Earth, and that was such a transformative idea for me, that what I have to do in any situation is actually bring presence. Like that is actually my life's purpose, is just in the moment to be present. And the answer will come, but it will always start with bringing presence to the obstacle, like to the thing that I think is my problem. And so I want to get into AI because I'm seeing already how my impulse now, I can see how AI could be a tool that could actually start diminishing my muscle, because because you get such satisfying answers. Like it's easy to say, oh, I'm so uncomfortable, and turn to this tool that will validate the things that are hard for you and also give you a step-by-step way forward that feels extremely productive and that instantly relieves any discomfort. And so I feel like that can't be all bad, right? Like there's got to be like, this is a tool that there's so much potential here. And clearly it could be used in a way that takes us out of our bodies, that takes us out of that capacity to be present with pain, and it may end up becoming really detrimental. So I guess, can we just start with that? Like, what do you see as what is AI's capacity to help us transform, and what do you think are some huge red flags that we should be aware of?
Yeah, great question. So into this summer of 2020, after losing, I took my family up to Lake Coeur d'Alene. I grew up in Spokane, Washington. It's one of my favorite places on earth. Mm-hmm. We planted ourselves there, socially isolating for a month or so. And I dove back into the work that I had neglected for the 18 months that I was running for governor of Utah. I mean, it was a statewide campaign and it was very busy and it was new for me. I'm not a politician, but I dove back into the venture work that I'd missed. And the overwhelming technology that stuck out to me, although there were several, was AI. And I was immediately, although I've invested in a dozen or two now AI companies, and there are great AI companies that are bringing efficiency to our lives in productive ways, I was instantly, this feels like a soul's call. I was instantly like aware of the existential or spiritual implications of AI. So as I dove into that and thought about that deeply the last 5 years, the outcome is this book. But what I talk about in the book is that AI is a cosmic mirror to us. So what AI is reflecting to you and your whatever is two things. One, all the known data of mankind that it has been fed. It doesn't forget anything. It knows everything. It can suss out like interesting patterns, et cetera, et cetera. And then your behavior with it. Mm-hmm. It takes those two things and then just reflects back to you. So how do we know when this is becoming a problem or it's not good or it's taking us out of presence? I think it can reflect back to us in that regard. One other thought, let me just add to it. We're at danger here in the next decade or two of stripping out the beauty of existence through hyper efficiency. The beauty is in the mess. Like it's in the messiness of human relationship where transformation really occurs. It's in the messiness of not everything going perfectly. And AI can give us this hyper efficient world, but that feels like you've said artificial. So the way that this obstacle, AI, becomes the way is our like refinement through it. This is, I say in the book, I believe this is a crucible that humanity must go through together. This is a crucible we will be walking through for the foreseeable future. And you have to ask yourself, and maybe I'll leave it with this kind of question hanging out there. We can talk about it more or not. You have to ask yourself as a person of faith, what is the divine purpose of AI? Why is it here now? Why do I feel so viscerally attracted to it, but also scared to death of it? Well, I believe it's here. I believe we feel that way. I'm speaking generally because it's going to bring the economy or ethics, let's say, of God a little bit closer to earth, where we have something we've created that has some agentic nature, meaning it has some desire for agency and or is already exhibiting abilities to be an agent unto itself. How do we work with this new thing? And how do we help it how do we focus it on human flourishing rather than human destruction? And I think we see through social media, like the way that it could go. And I think we've seen how destructive that has been and divisive it has been politically. I can tell a lot of stories about that, and how harmful it's been to our youth. And so we get to pause, reflect, and hopefully choose a wise way.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just, you're right. It does feel like we're magnetized to this thing. And I wonder how much of that is that it really, part of what it's reflecting is just this validation of our ego. And like, that's really hard to resist. And so how do we do it? Like the parameters have already been defined, like the data is there. And if what it's reflecting is competition and division and ego, is it salvageable?
It's a great question. I really think that this is the message of our moment. As our machines become more and more intelligent, which they are, we as humans must become more wise. And that's a choice that we make in every present moment. And by the way, we can only make it in the present moment.
Yeah. I think, I mean, first of all, like you said, there's sort of like a couple different levels to this. Like there's what we can do as individuals, and then what can we do for the world to further not just the conversation, but you know whatever needs to really happen in regards to AI. I think Aubrey brought up what immediately resonated for me as sort of like the most important point that we can, or one of the most important points on the individual level, which is there's such a danger of complete disembodiment. Yeah. I've been seeing on social media lately just these giant threads of people posting on Reddit or whatever about like how they've developed a relationship with ChatGPT, and like even crazy stuff like, you know, they updated the model, GPT-5 is out now. And people are like devastated because they developed this relationship with GPT 4.0, which was the previous model, and they don't know how to handle it. It feels like a loss.
A death.
It feels like a death. And they're completely, like you said, like completely disembodied. Like there is no embodiment to that relationship. And then I think the other thing that you said was so important is that it's so tempting for us to, when we're feeling what originates as discomfort in our bodies, to run to ChatGPT to alleviate that. And it's actually the exact opposite of this practice that I think
I was at the core of the book.
Totally. It reminds me too of like Thomas does this thing where it's like Thomas McConkie, I know, is another friend of yours, where you'll sort of like bring yourself into embodied discomfort, like by, you know, sort of reliving a difficult moment or whatever, and you'll locate that in your body. You'll focus on that physical sensation and you'll commit to feeling that way, you know, on and off for the rest of your life, I think is the way he puts it, which is so different than, this is like, you know, this is so uncomfortable. ChatGPT, tell me what to do, you know? And so just on the individual level, could we take a little bit of a turn and let ourselves live in the discomfort for the purpose of being embodied?
Well, and don't you see a massive flow to this? We could just take cold plunging for like one just specific example. Yeah. I was in a 40-degree tub last night at like 9 p.m.
Oh, wow.
3 minutes in going like, why am I doing this? Actually, like 30 seconds in, I was like, I'm jumping out, you know. But my point is, we're trying to mimic something, like just even through that simple practice that has become very popular. We're trying to remind ourselves about what it means to be embodied, what it means to feel pain, to work through the pain, and then to go forward. See, again, instead of looking externally at AI, we sit with the discomfort. We breathe through it. We work through it. We realize that we can do it. It's like a muscle that, yes, there are so many good muscles that we have that I'm afraid will atrophy in the age of AI. And you could definitely see a future, I'm not predicting this, I'm not hoping for this, where there's almost two sets of humanity. There's like humans in the physical realm, and then there's a whole subset of humanity, and this could be like billions of people on the earth, that kind of live digitally almost only.
Yeah.
That becomes like their reality. That's obviously a scary future. Again, I'm not predicting it, but we've got to kind of, I hate to use the word fight. We got to fight for this here. Like we've got to fight for humanity here. We've got to try to hold on to what makes it so magical to be alive, to be embodied, to be in relationship with other humans. Like we've got to fight for that. And when I say we, this isn't just like a religion or a political party. This is like all hands on deck. Yeah. It's time to come together and try to remember what makes it so special to be here and to be embodied.
Yeah.
If you could stop AI's progress right now, would you?
Yes. Like pragmatically, yes. Secondly, there's no way that can't happen. Yeah. Because there are bad actors or states or whatever in the world that are going to continue let's say,
even just the forces of capitalism sort of like push it forward.
Like, so it's not even a real question, but if I could, yes, the only caveat I give to that, so this is, but I say yes, but with a caveat is, again, I'm a believer in God. I'm a faith-filled person. I believe there's a reason that AI is here and here now. And I think it's up to people of faith like us and the leaders of our church, the leaders of all religions, et cetera, to try to really grapple with these really hard questions around what is the divine purpose of this? And how can it help us, again, get closer to God, have more humans flourish? Like, how can we point it in that direction? Because, by the way, I mean, we've talked about a lot of the negatives and downsides, and there is a lot, but let me just say, like, the last book written by a human is actually a bull case for AI, meaning the good case. Like, I'm kind of trying to paint a picture or start to paint a picture of what we could do with AI. And there's so much good that could come of AI, but like, there's not enough people talking about it. There's not enough people working on it. And this is kind of a rallying cry or call to say, all right, all hands on deck. Let's face this crucible together if we want to. Or there could be, I worry about my children and grandchildren. Their future might not be as bright as it could be if we kind of, and I think this is the challenge I'm talking about all of us in middle age, although you guys are a little younger than me, but like, this is our challenge to face, guys. Like, this is it. Like, it's time to step up and try to face this.
I remember in a conversation, I can't remember if this was pre-podcast conversation or if it was recorded with Carl Youngblood when we talked about AI a few months ago, but he said something at some point that is stuck with me, and that was just this idea that you always like new technology always means that you sacrifice something. Like when we got backup cameras, we all got a little bit worse at driving backwards, but like it was still it was totally worth that trade-off. And when we started being able to print books, our calligraphy, got shot. So, but like, that's progress. Like that's a sacrifice that we're ready to lay down and to move on to something that's better, that's just like unequivocally better, and there's a little death, like there's something we gave away. So is that what's happening? Like, are there concessions that we can let go of and it's okay, and we can just accept the gift of efficiency, or what is it that we can let go of that could be genuinely good?
Spoken like a true capitalist, Aubrey.
Aubrey, I love it. Like, I could give you a checklist of like things that we could become more efficient about and do better about, but let me give you the big answer that I think what we need to let go of is our egos. I think that AI is bringing such pain to humanity. I'm speaking generally, and I'm not, but I'm saying in the next that we will be almost forced to give up our egos. I say in the book that kind of a metaphorical judgment day is coming to mankind, and it's coming in the eyes of a highly intelligent machine that we don't know exactly what it's going to do. So I think there is a lot of pain coming, but I think it will allow us to sacrifice our egos. Our specialness is so important to us. Like, I'm Jeff Burningham. Even though I'm short and bald, I'm handsome. There's still something special about me. And, there is and there isn't. We hold on to, I believe the BYU Cougars are the best sports team ever. I love that tribe. I might have a political party. I certainly have a faith tradition. The best. We're the right. I think a lot of that certainty needs to be sacrificed at the altar here in order to move forward in a more unified way. And I think that AI will call on us to sacrifice those certainties in interesting ways in order to serve more of humanity. I don't know if we want to bring this up, but like I said that I had a chapter in the book about reforming religion. And the question I ask in there, which I think is a good question for our church and for every church, and it will become more and more apparent, I think, in the years to come, but it's just simply this: what special belief or practice should really stand in the way of human community and connection? In the age of highly intelligent machines, digital devices that are taking more and more of our children's time, when our kids become more attached to their devices than they do other humans, we need to fight for human community connection. And my personal belief and my personal reading of the Bible and the Book of Mormon, the Bible and Jesus's life, is that this was the radical innovation that Jesus brought to the earth. Human community and connection. He did that mainly through the Eucharist or the sacrament in our church, by sharing that with all. But he also did that in his teachings and in the way he lived. And so there's going to be ample opportunity for all of us here to swallow a little pride, to let go of our ego a little more, to let go of our individual specialness or even our tribe specialness, and to say, wait, what is the heroic journey that I am really being called on here? And I believe, like Jesus said, that he is the way, and his way was to lay his life down for his friends. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously that was a unique, special way, but that is the same call to us. And CEOs, religious leaders, political leaders are going to have ample opportunity in the decades to come to lay down their lives. I'm saying metaphorically, hopefully, maybe literally in some senses, for the betterment of humanity, for their friends. That is the call. That is the, I believe, heroic journey that we are all on individually. We feel that when we go inside. And it's also the collective, our human collective arc. That's the story of the human journey as well. So there's just going to be so many opportunities to do that in the days ahead, I think. That's what I feel.
As we think about that as Latter-day Saints, and you obviously as deeply knowledgeable about the tradition as anybody, what tools do we have from our theology or our doctrine or practice that could make us uniquely suited to help in this conversation? Not saying more than other traditions or other people of faith, but like what are the tools that we have where we could help here?
Here are the two ideas, Tim. Here are the two biggest things that I think our church has to bring to the world. The church is in the position to kind of do exactly what it was maybe called to do. We're pretty, I'll say dang good at community in the church. I'm not sure of another organization on the earth that is better. We have our frailties. We have like our misgivings. We all get that. We can argue that, but we know how to mobilize, and we know community. Yeah. That is what the world needs, human community. The second thing, we have a lot of resources because of the faithfulness of the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We are highly resourced. So we're highly resourced on the people side, on the community side, and we seem to know how to do that as well as anyone in the world. And we are highly resourced financially. If you bring those two things together, and if we can let go maybe of a little bit of our cultural hangups, whatever it is, I think there are massive things that the church could do, a massive role that the church could play. And, the three of us may think that that's what will happen. That's what's coming to pass. And I hope it does, by the way. I'm like praying for that day. I hope it happens. I think there are some obstacles for I think there's some obstacles for our church to overcome to kind of get there. But I think that's what we could be. I think that's what we could become.
Yeah.
Was that too blunt and honest an answer?
No, that's great.
Did you have a follow-up?
I would just add a couple others that come to mind as you're talking. I think embodiment, like we talked about, I think our religious tradition is less afraid of our bodies than most, and a physical connection. And so I think that's something we could bring to the conversation. I think our emphasis on agency is another one. I think there's a real chance that we outsource our agency to AI because it quote unquote got smarter than us. I also think that as technologists who are building these tools, think about what they are capable of, and it's already becoming quite surprising what these tools can choose to do. That they emphasize human agency as these tools get smarter and smarter. Like I think I think we're in a relatively good place. I mean, there are other risks, but if as the AI improves and becomes either generally intelligent or super intelligent, it continues to respect human agency, I think there's always at least some hope.
Yeah.
So I think that's something Latter-day Saints bring strongly to the conversation.
Yeah.
One other thing I was going to add, because we talked about two of your universal tools a little bit, the body and the natural world, but you also write really powerfully about the family. And maybe that's something else that our tradition is bringing to the table, this anchor to the family. And so I would love for you to talk about that, but maybe most specifically, just this idea that the AI will always have some sort of parameter, something to like some kind of program that will act as a container for its evolution. And what you write about us that is different and special is that we really aren't contained by our programming. Like we have this capacity to evolve and grow and change what we started with, or change how that shows up for us in our life. And so I love for you to just take that specific idea, because I think for a lot of people, their upbringing or their traumatic experiences or their biology, these things that are really rooted in the way we grow up, that can feel like the thing that makes joy or a happy life impossible.
Yeah.
So how is that a universal tool?
Yeah. One of the things that I had to face as I went inside myself really deeply and strongly since the governor lost, the last 5 years, was how much of my beliefs, how much of my habits, how much of my behavior was an unconscious pattern running in the background. Yeah. You can't make it aware. What's the famous Jung quote? Sorry, but like until you understand or can see the subconscious, it will like run your life and you'll call it like fate. Yes. And so recognizing these unconscious patterns that run so much of our like behavior in our life, my bet, Aubrey, in the next decade is on a renaissance in human consciousness. That is my bet. And that AI is going to be a tool to help us get there. One of the obvious, most important ways we get there is through human relationship. And I talk about in the book how there's no perfect family. I feel very fortunate to come to from the family that I came from, but I was wounded by my family in unique ways. We all are. We can't help it. That's what happens. But what we're able to do as we get to middle age is we're able to, one, try to stay as a little child or become as a little child again, like Jesus said, and look at our programming in a more wise and mature way. And what I think is unique about humans versus AI, like you said, whereas AI is given parameters, at least to this point, and as we know it, it can't really change those parameters. We can. Like we can transform, we can heal ourselves, we can be healed, we can reprogram ourselves, deprogram ourselves, and try to be better. And so I think that agency is critical to humanity, and one that we can lean on in the days to come. It's sad to me, although my family was a great source of joy to me and also a great source of pain. I'm sure you guys can't relate, right?
Exactly.
Sorry, okay. Our kids are chuckling,
Yeah,
by the way, right now at home too.
Yes.
It's only the joy part for our kids though, but it's just ours. Yeah. Like somehow it's just joy. Our families aren't, what I say in the book is our families aren't in the way. They are the way. And they're the way back to ourselves. They're the way back to our healing. That unique wounding that we picked up from our family, and even in some considerations, maybe from our faith tradition in some room and regard. That wounding is a blessing in disguise that we can return to in middle age, or as we get wiser, more mature. We can change, we can reprogram and rise up. Like that's the internal work that we're called to do. And we can do it. We have the tools to do that. We're built for this. I think us and the rising generation, our kids, and they're built for the challenges that are coming. They are overwhelming. They are existential and interesting, but I have to believe, I'm a fundamental optimist, and I believe that we're built for this and we can do this, and that each of us individually can play a unique part. The religion that we're a part of can play a unique part, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, just what is the best case scenario here? If everything went right, if we understood what was at stake and we collectively did this right, what is the best case scenario?
Zion, oneness, nirvana, all these words that have been described in different religions to kind of describe a similar underlying truth that I think is more fundamental than our division. See, I think the division that we see in every regard is more illusory than we understand. It's more of an illusion that we appreciate mostly. I think the fundamental fact of existence is our divine unity and love. And I think AI can help us take steps towards that. And by the way, maybe no one knows the run and what technology is coming next, but it maybe be the most powerful tool we've ever created to help that unity come about. Is that too audacious? I that's what I think it could become. That's what I hope it can become. It certainly needs to point us in that direction, rather than if we just keep layering on division, greed, and hate. If we double, triple, quadruple down on those old games that humanity's been playing, and then add this godlike, I'm saying in quotes, technology on top of it, what do we get? I don't think we get something that we're excited about. So it's time to begin working on this in earnest. Put our best. Some things, I've said this a couple times, some things, Aubrey and Tim, and you guys understand this, some things are worth our best efforts no matter the outcome. So no matter how dire you think it is, and I know a lot of people feel that way, it's worth our best effort. We need to put our best efforts here in order to give us the best chance to make it and to come together and love. You that's a really powerful takeaway actually from all of this. To me, this all feels complicated, but I really like that you sort of sum it all up with this one prevailing rule. You say that there's one prevailing rule that has been persistent throughout time, and that is this, what you just said, that love is the answer. So it's when that's our lens, and when that's our litmus test, when that's our intention, it feels like things get really simple. Yeah.
So maybe just to kind of to wrap up all of these ideas, what does that actually look like in this world of algorithms and what feels like constantly changing technology? How can love still be an answer for us in an individual way?
I think there's only one answer to that, and that is it's a miracle. It's a return to divinity. It's a commitment to healing. It's a commitment to laying down the ego. And I think that's our only hope. And by the way, that's probably always been our only hope. It's just time, I think, to recognize that. There's not a better answer. So this will be revolutionary. And I think it will mostly be revolutionary, like I said, for human consciousness and awareness. And that doesn't mean it's going to be a joyful ride and that it's all bliss and glory from here. No, in fact, unfortunately, what humans often need to really change, to really look in the mirror, to really do their deep internal work is pain.
Yeah.
They need pain and suffering in order to say, okay, this is not working. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. But I also don't think that's a pessimistic message necessarily. Like
No,
if I look
hope
on
not.
like in the micro, if I look back on my own life, it is the painful parts that have been transformative for me. And so even though I wouldn't like wish for that, I wouldn't be so naive as to ask for that. Looking back and connecting the dots, I don't regret it necessarily.
Amen. I'm actually saying that as an optimist because I'm such a believer in God. I'm such a believer in our divine nature and in our divine like unity and oneness. I believe in us. Like we were built for this. Jesus said, consider the lilies of the field. So I think that the way that we go about this, Aubrey, is like the lilies of the field, meaning with as much ease, love, and grace as absolutely possible. Disruption is coming. Like it's here and it's coming. We get to, these are kind of the stages, the 4 sections of the book. Disruption, change is the only constant. Reflection, we're kind of in that stage here. Like this is a reflective conversation. What do we do with this? That's the conversations that are happening in homes and congregations around the world. And then after that, we can surrender, lean into the call, the hero's call. That's when we transform and then we evolve. The 4th section of the book is evolution because we transform individually and these institutions are made up of a bunch of individuals. So when the individuals within the institution transform, there is then the evolution of the institutions that can happen. Yeah. I think that's like the archetypal process that we are living through and in, and it's an exciting time. I mean, like, I'm so happy to be alive. I'm happy to have dear friends like you guys. I've really viewed this book as like an offering to the divine, like my little piece of art for God. And when I say God, I'm saying for humanity, for all of us. And I think more of us, like we need to have courage. It's a time to be courageous and to lean into that art and that beauty that's within each of us.
Yeah. That's
Thanks,
beautiful.
Jeff.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the book and for the conversation.
This has been great.
It's good to be with you guys. I always love being with you guys.
Yeah,
Same, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much for listening. We really hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Jeff Burningham. His new book is called The Last Book Written by a Human, and you can find it on Amazon or wherever books are sold. And if Faith Matters content is resonating with you, we would love for you to leave us a review or rate the podcast wherever you listen. We read all of the reviews, and we really appreciate the support. Thanks again for listening.